The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. We had yesterday off in celebration of the holidays, Christmas, and we're back today. So much has transpired already just since Friday. We spoke on Friday, but a lot has happened, including Greg Abbott of Texas, governor of Texas, using migrants in the freezing cold temperatures, sub-freezing temperatures of Christmas Eve, shipping 2 buses, 50 people, 50 migrants, and dropping them off in front of Kamala Harris's, Vice President Kamala Harris's home on Christmas Eve with no indication of anyone there to receive them, without any services there. They simply got off the bus, and if it had not been for passersby capturing it and calling in for help, these migrants would have been out in the cold the entire night. Brought to you in part by a pro-life, so-called pro-life Republican governor and someone who would swear up and down that they're a good God-fearing Christian. Well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus take these migrants and use them as political props and drop them off just so that you could own the libs, drop them off in the freezing cold, frigid temperatures? This is a game to them. This is an absolute game. They're playing with the lives of human beings for cheap, insulting political points, because at the end of the day, all this is them expressing how much cruelty really is the point. This comes at expense to them. They pay millions of dollars to pull off these stunts, but it's worth it because they just love being cruel to people. This is who you have as the governor of Texas. This is who you have as the governor of Florida. This is the Republican Party en masse in 2022. Don't expect them to change in 2023. This is the mindset. This is the mentality of the people who want to overthrow democracy. Let's be very clear about something. We are dealing with a faction of people who don't think anything about your life. Your life has no value to them whatsoever. If they can harm you and in exchange get cheap political points, they will choose to harm you every single time. This is what they are. This is where they get their giggles, right? This is where Greg Abbott sits back in his wheelchair and you really think about what happened to him and how he became paralyzed. And you really would think that a person that was that close to the death would not be this evil, but he's sitting back in the warmth of the governor's mansion on Christmas Eve laughing because he knows that this little political stunt is going to irritate and aggravate people like Kamala Harris. He's doing this literally to just own the libs. And he's laughing and giggling and ha-kiki-ing because this is funny to them. This is a game to them. This is what they are. This is who they are. They are deplorables, full stop. And we have to be mindful that this is the type of mentality. Here's another person, another type. If you want to understand the sociopathy of the people who are taking over this country, the people for whom democracy is an inconvenience and it must be overthrown, right? The people who are taking power through any means necessary, they are not only cruel, they're just outright liars. Take for your consideration George Santos, a Republican congressman-elect on his way to Washington, D.C., and it has come out over the weekend how many lies this man filled in his campaign. He lied about his ethnicity. He lied about his education. He lied about his career. He lied about he even said that he was Jewish, and then came out later on and said, I didn't really mean that I was a part of the Jewish faith or the Jewish people. He was Jew-ish, meaning how he handles it. I mean, it's the obscenity and the absurdity of it all. I want you to listen to George Santos, who Kevin McCarthy is still planning on, working with. This guy is going to be seated as a congressman. His resume is full of lies, but this is just where we are. We've gotten so far gone in the decline of this empire, of this democracy, that lying is par for the course. It is almost as if it's written in the curriculum. It is standard operating procedures for politicians to not only lie to you, but to get exposed and to get away with it. See, that's the insult to the injury. We know politicians lie, But now we're at the point where there's no accountability that can be had, because once Republicans realized that all they had to do was ignore institutional norms, any norms of any decorum, anything about civility, all of these institutions that people like Joe Biden and Barack Obama cherished so dearly, these institutions really hinge on a gentleman's handshake. Like literally, the peaceful transition of power was an agreement, not a law. And once people like Donald Trump and the Republican Party realized they could maintain and obtain new levels of power by ignoring those standard operating procedures that were not law, by refusing to concede, Carrie Lake in Arizona doing everything that she can to overthrow the last election results because she didn't win. This is where we are. This is what we're dealing with. And these are the people who are not just vying for power, they are obtaining power, and they are resisting and ignoring any calls for accountability. We have to really figure out what we're going to do in this country as it pertains to this Neanderthal class who revel in their ignorance, their bigotry, their stupidity, and their intentional obtuseness. Listen to this clip of Republican Congressman-elect from the state of New York's George Santos as he was asked about the many lies he's been caught in, ranging from his education, his entire resume, and even his ethnicity. Take a listen in.
I didn't outright lie. So I'm still qualified. I still understand what I'm doing. That nobody can take away from me. Did I embellish my resume? Yes, I did. And I'm sorry. And it shouldn't be done. But I'm still the same guy.
Do I wish you a happy Hanukkah or a Merry Christmas?
So as I've said many times, and I think you've heard me say this, I always joke, I'm Catholic, but I'm also Jew-ish.
Would you like a side of anti-Semitism to wash down all the lies? Whatever racist joke he thought he was telling, Kevin McCarthy, who is poised or in competition to become the Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker of the House, believed him to be Jewish enough to count him in the Republican Jewish caucus.
Max Miller in Ohio, George Santos in New York, and you had David Kustoff from Tennessee get reelected. He introduced him. Do you realize we have the largest Republican Jewish caucus in more than 24 years? Not bad, huh?
Please clap. So this is what we're dealing with, and this is actually the low-hanging fruit, to point out that the Republican Party, the modern Republican Party, is full of habitual liars, right? Filled with cruel sociopaths who get joy. Their giggles come from how they can harm other people, like Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, along with Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who are engaging in human trafficking to own the libs. And the insult to injury is that there doesn't seem to be any accountability no matter what these monsters do. Because so much of the accountability was self-imposed. So much of American democracy was a gentleman's handshake agreement. It was norms and institutions and practices, not the rule of law. And once Republicans understood that, they got the cheat code. They understand exactly what they have to do to maintain power, even though democracy says that they are the minority. They continue to perpetrate as though they are the majority and act as if they have a mandate when what they really have is voter suppression. We, the people, must absolutely understand the score. We are dealing with political power that seeks to be completely unaccountable, above the law, able to incite an insurrection and get away with it, commit acts of stochastic terrorism with no accountability. In fact, not only is there no accountability, but they get promoted. They get celebrated. They get a raise. The more lies Tucker Carlson can tell per minute, the higher he gets paid. The more misinformation he can spew, the more he's beloved by these people. Fox News, The Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro. We are living in the era of sophistry and lies, where the best liar can get to the top of this country. They can make it to the United States Congress and look back at us and say, too bad you didn't catch me when I was lying. This is an empire in decline. This is the ending stages of democracy, because those things that are the most dangerous to democracy have become standard operating procedures for the Republican Party. Something else interesting happened over the holiday weekend. The second most powerful man in Russia, arguably, is Dmitry Medvedev. He is the former president and former prime minister of Russia and currently serves as the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation. Over the weekend, he took to Twitter and posted some rather cryptic predictions about the new year in 2023, specifically as it pertains to the United States of America. Now, when I read this thread to you, it should become even more alarming when you realize that Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, co-signed this as he does with so many other tweets. Now, Medvedev, for his part, tried to make it seem, he prefaced the entire thread by trying to make it seem as though maybe this was tongue-in-cheek. This is what he said. On the New Year's Eve, everybody's into making predictions. Many come up with futuristic hypotheses, as if competing to single out the wildest and even most absurd ones. Here's our humble contribution: what can happen in 2023? Now, he goes through a couple of things that are, oil prices are going to rise to $150 a barrel. The UK will rejoin the EU. Poland and Hungary will occupy western regions of formerly existing Ukraine, right? He had to drop that in there. And then he went on to say the Fourth Reich will be created, encompassing the territory of Germany and its satellites, i.e. Poland, the Baltic states, etc., etc. War will break out between France and the Fourth Reich. Europe will be divided, etc. Here's the one that really set my alarms off. He says civil war will break out in the United States, California and Texas becoming independent states as a result. Texas and Mexico will form an allied state. Elon Musk will win the presidential election in a number of states, which, after a new civil war's end, will have been given to the GOP. And then to this, Elon Musk replied, epic thread. Now, again, I read through some of the scenarios that he predicted for 2023, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though this is official Russian foreign policy. But when you consider how much this country, the United States of America, is already teetering on civil war, how many groups like the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers are training right now, preparing for a second civil war. And when you consider the operations of the Republican Party, the insurrection of January 6th, it would be totally different if what Medvedev said wasn't completely and totally plausible, especially when you factor in the global pan-reactionary movement that we have been talking about so long on this show. When you consider that American Republicans and conservatives have joined in concert on the global stage with far right-wing reactionaries like Vladimir Putin and his do-boy, Dmitry Medvedev, when you consider that, it becomes a little too bit on the nose for my comfort level, especially when you have Elon Musk co-signing it, who fancies himself to be a world leader simply because he was rich enough to buy Twitter. It's like, we see these things going on. We see the inflection point pushing us towards civil war in this country, not because rational people want it, but because we have irrational Neanderthals in power of the conservative movement running the Republican Party, and because they are 100% committed to obtaining and maintaining power by any means necessary, even if that means going to a second civil war. I mean, they fully believe. You know what? I had to stop my sentence mid-sentence there. Give me 1 second because I was getting ready to say this, which is these Republicans fully believe that they have the police and the military on their side, so they believe that they can win a civil war. But I am mistaken. They don't have the police and the military on their side. The police and the military are made up of these same fascists, these same theocratic fascists, these same people who want to set black people and progressives and marginalized groups and minorities. They want to set us back for generations. Like, this is their actual strategy. They are actually preparing for this. Whether or not their preparations are going to be seen as foolish or whether or not we will be seen as foolish for not taking their preparations seriously is becoming a matter of history. That is starting to play itself out now. And so to have the former president of Russia, former prime minister of Russia, Vladimir Putin's number one man, Dmitry Medvedev, inflamed that possibility, even if tongue in cheek, right? Let's be real. Nothing that's coming from that highest of levels in Russia is going to be merely tongue in cheek. But even if it was, he's hitting on a nerve that conservatives want hit upon. He's playing a song that they want to sing. They are preparing for a civil war. And it looks as though we here in the United States are not the only ones who notice that's what's happening. And then you have the epic dude bro, Elon Musk, co-signing it, saying, oh, it's an epic thread. Because, of course, the possibility of this country falling into a civil war is all fun and games for someone like Elon Musk.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Yeah. I want to go. I want to dig into one more layer of this global pan-reactionary movement, this far right-wing patriarchal. I mean, there's a lot of words to describe it, and sometimes folks may not get every single word that I say. All I can tell you is that I try to identify this thing as precisely as possible, and it's important that we understand exactly what we're dealing with when we're talking about this global movement of reactionaries, people who have a visceral reaction to the progress of marginalized groups, no matter who they are, whether it be the progress of women, whether it be the progress of Black people, whether it be the progress of the LGBTQIA community. It doesn't matter what community. They have a negative and an adverse reaction to it. They want to stop it because they are the holders and the beneficiaries of power. That is what's mounting on the global stage. And one of the interesting facets of this pushback, this resistance to modernity, is how integrated it is with misogyny and the hatred of women. And you get a 2-for-1 with this crowd when you can focus that hatred and that bigotry towards Black women. We saw this with Brittany Griner, an Olympian athlete being held hostage in Russia, but here in the United States, where if this was a white woman, she would have been celebrated. She would have been rescued by SEAL Team 6 and given a ticker tape parade. But because she was a Black woman and she was a Black gay woman, then all of a sudden you had American conservatives aligning with Vladimir Putin just so that they could own the libs, just so that they can attack Brittany Griner, right? That's just one example. Another example is the Megan Thee Stallion trial, or more precisely, the trial of Tory Lanez, who was found guilty on all counts in the shooting of Megan Thee Stallion 2 years ago. One of the most fascinating things I saw during this trial was the number of Black rappers, men, who came out and attacked Megan Thee Stallion. Now, that didn't surprise me because I've been watching something for a very long time. Kanye West kind of sort of is a good example of this, but white supremacy works like this. White supremacy has been looking for a Black male leader. White supremacy has been recruiting, actively looking for a Black face, a man that they can put up who can inflame and continuously divide Black men and Black women. Listen to this clip from Imani Barbarin. She's an activist, a writer, and she's peep game too. She saw the same thing. And it's worth mentioning because I think that this is inextricably linked into the global right-wing reactionary movement. Listen in.
So I've been keeping up with the Tory Lanez trial, not about the verdict, because we all know he did that shit. But I've been paying attention to this in conjunction with the Black Israelites talks, the Black femininity talks, the anti-Semitism, and something definitely feels off. I want to make it clear that a lot of these sentiments have always existed within the Black community. We are a plurality of voices and experiences, but there's something about the way that some of these conversations are outperforming what would be their organic reach that is concerning. And I saw a video yesterday of somebody, and I wish I had bookmarked it. They said that Tory Lanez wasn't really much of a figure before this trial. He was pretty much of a non-starter in terms of an artist of prominence within our community. Now, people going hard for Tory Lanez could just be as a result of the Misogynoir directed at Megan Thee Stallion. But in conjunction with a lot of these other issues, it feels like somebody is pumping up the fault lines within the Black community and picking at intercommunal sore spots. And it feels very intentional and organized.
Picking at the intercommunal sore spots, pumping up the fault lines in the Black community. And yes, it not only feels intentional, we know that it is intentional. There's no question about it. First of all, it's part of it is algorithmic, right? Because the algorithm, this is not giving an excuse to this cabal. This is not giving cover to them. It just shows you one of their tools, the precision of the algorithm to reward negative commentary about Black women. It is just a numerical, statistical certainty. If you want to get clicks, attack a Black woman on social media. If you want to get views on YouTube, have an entire channel attacking Black women. It's partly algorithmic, but it's also 100% what this sister says and she suspects. She's absolutely correct. There is money being invested into dividing the Black community as much as they possibly can. And one of the easiest fault lines to divide any community, I don't care what race, ethnicity, religion, I don't care what you are. One of the easiest fault lines to divide that community is the division between men and women. The struggle for women to get equal rights and get equal pay. The struggle for women to be able to define their lives outside of the desires of men and men's desire. Not all men, of course, not all men, but the overwhelming majority of people in political power, particularly of the conservative persuasion, they are using their power, their economic might, their political might to roll back the rights of women, to control women, to dictate to women what they can and cannot do. In some cases, trying to remove the right to vote from women, aligning with nations that don't even, like Saudi Arabia, that won't even allow a woman to drive, right? This global pan-reactionary movement is rooted in patriarchy. It always has been. And so to see the intentional inflaming of the divide between Black men and Black women, and to have, like that sister Imani had, the suspicion that there's something pushing it beyond its natural organic reach, that's because money has been invested and money continues to be invested in dividing men and women, particularly Black men and women. And when you get celebrity involved, that division becomes far more acute. That war, that anger becomes so much more heightened. Ask Amber Heard. And we're seeing the same exact thing in the aftermath of the decision and the guilty verdict of Tory Lanez in the shooting trial of Megan Thee Stallion. We'll be back right after this break.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. Very special welcome to our one and only newest patron, Vanessa Wimet. I really hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Chances are I didn't, but thank you so very much for becoming a patron. This patron party, this entire patron party is for you. Bounce. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You too can get your very own special shout out and get access to the patrons only section by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you not only become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family, but you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our patron party, which we unfortunately had to cancel last week because DJ Exclusive was sick. Patreon.com/The BPD Show, all these bonus benefits, and we'll be back right after this commercial break, unless you're a patron.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Yep. Welcome back, everybody. As I mentioned just a moment ago before the break, we had to cancel this past Friday's patron party. DJ Exclusive was in the hospital for a few days, so be sure to reach out to him and send him some love. He's back home now and recovering. And we're going to keep an eye on him this week and not try to put too much pressure on him. And we are potentially, I don't want to jump too quickly, but we're potentially looking at a New Year's Eve patron party since we had to cancel this past Friday's patron party. But be on the lookout for more information on that. And coming up in the new year, most likely the second week of January, I should be back on the morning show on a regular basis. So I'm looking forward to that, most certainly. One last housekeeping thing for the rest of this holiday week, while I am spending time with family and working on a couple of things and changes around here on the home front, the episodes will only be the public episodes. There won't be any patrons episodes just for the rest of this week, but going obviously in the new year, once we get off a holiday break, we'll get back to some normalcy. One last thought before I get out of here. I want to play this clip of Tucker Carlson interviewing the founder of quote unquote libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik. And I want you to listen to their language as it pertains to the LGBTQIA community. And I want you to really put this in context of everything that's happened over the last year. We've seen children's hospitals have to be evacuated because of bomb threats. We saw the shooting at Q nightclub where the shooter went in to kill as many members of the LGBTQIA community as possible. And I want you to really consider the language that this young woman and Tucker Carlson are promoting and how dangerous it is. And I don't personally care what you believe as a matter of religion, of faith, of anything when it comes to a human being, because every single human being has the right to exist without fear. And what's happening right now in conservative circles by the targeting of the LGBTQIA community is nothing short of stochastic terrorism waiting for its next victim. Listen to this.
What is going on here? Do you have any theories?
I think there's something so unique about the LGBTQ community has become this cult, and it's so captivating, and it pulls people in so strongly, unlike anything we've ever seen. And they brainwash people to join, and they convince them of all of these things. And it's really, really hard to get out of it. It's really difficult. And there are studies on this. Like there's been a lot of reporting on this about people, parents who are like, my child is starting to say, that they're non-binary or transgender or whatever. And what do I do? How do I stop this? And it's really, really difficult. It's unlike anything we've ever seen, I think. It's extremely poisonous.
But do you see a spiritual component to any of this? You don't have to answer that if you don't want.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I do. I don't think this makes sense at all.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And I think they're evil. And sometimes we try to break it down a lot, and we discuss like why this is happening, what's happening, and whatever. And I think sometimes the simplest answer is like they're just evil. They're bad people. They're just evil people, and they want to groom kids.
Yeah,
they're recruiting.
To her, the Jedi are evil. She's wandered herself into this conundrum where she has to just completely label an entire group of people as evil simply because of who they are. If you're gay, to this person, to Tucker Carlson and libs of TikTok, Chaya Raichik, you're evil just because you're gay. We all know where this type of language leads. And at this point, that has to be concluded as the point. The point of this is for violence to occur. Chaya Raichik and Tucker Carlson, Fox News, this entire lot of them, They are creating the situation, just like, remember when Bill O'Reilly got Dr. George Tiller killed because of the coverage he brought to that abortion clinic provider, got him killed. So they understand full well what their rhetoric can do. And it has become so intensely targeted. No exceptions. If you're gay, then you're evil, according to Fox News, according to Tucker Carlson, according to Chaya Raichik. If you're lesbian, you're evil. Simply existing. And I don't care. Again, I don't personally care what you believe as a matter of religion. Whatever you want to believe, you believe. But as a matter of humanity, there's absolutely no way that we can tolerate this level of intolerance. We got no problem with the tolerance paradox for those who are unread. Go look up Karl Popper, all you conservatives who want to say so much for the tolerant left. We have no requirement to sit idly by and allow this intolerant rhetoric, this bigoted, hate-filled rhetoric to lead to more people being killed, because they have already led to some people being killed. Already. We're already living in the aftermath of killings, of stochastic terrorism. And don't think for 1 second that because you may be a Christian that you're going to be safe from this type of hatred, because it never ends where it begins. It never ends just with them targeting the LGBTQIA community. Hell, it honestly began with them targeting black people. They just know that they need a new set of boogeymen. They need a new set of scapegoats that they can use to hype up their audience for political power and for financial gain, for clicks. Our lives, the lives of our allies, the lives of migrants, all of our lives are a game to them, fodder for them to play around with like toy things, all so that they can maintain their grip on power. Well, at the end of the day, what matters the most is who's going to fight back and how hard we're going to fight back. And I can honestly tell you, despite doing this for, I don't know how many years I've been doing this, despite all of the ups and downs and the battles and all the shortfalls and everything that we've been through, we've only just begun to fight. We're not just going to fight for people like me, people who believe what I believe. We're fighting, and we will continue to fight for every single human being. Every person has the right to live without the condemnation and the scorn of religiously zealot people who can't live up to their own dogma, even if they tried. We'll see you tomorrow.